Hello, everybody. I'm Sean Reynolds from Sportsnet, about to be joined by Ken Weep from the Winnipeg Free Press. Together, we are Kenny and Renny, and this is the Kenny and Renny post-game show after probably a pretty unique game, I would say, played by the Winnipeg Jets and the Carolina Hurricanes. Or was it unique? I don't know. Maybe this is a little bit of a throwback game for the Winnipeg Jets. Maybe this was a little bit of a return of the snake charmer. I know a lot of people were out there and were tweeting me, snake charmer, is this the snake charmer? Is this a return? Is this sustainable? I'll tell you, I like this. Someone had talked about during the panel of Colby Armstrong, who's a colleague. Ken has been a colleague of his in the past. He's a colleague of mine with Sportsnet right now. I talked about the Jets and their offense being hypnotizing, which is, I mean, he's essentially noticing the same thing I've talked about. The Jets offense is kind of like, what are you doing when you charm a snake? You're hypnotizing it. You're kind of putting it to sleep. And that is exactly what we saw. Yes, those who are asking, the Jets' second goal in that game is a snake charmer goal, right? I don't mind it. I'm going to tell you why. But first, I'm going to break this down. And I'm going to say, to me, this is one of those kind of news games, or like I was talking last time, I thought that it was similar to Chicago. Like, there's a lot of stuff to take away from this that is like good. Other than, they get the points. Of course, that's good. Positives and negatives. Okay, so let's start off. That first goal that the Jets score, that's a goal where basically that the only reason that goal happens is because they're getting caved in. Now, let me explain. When you're getting outshot, you haven't got a shot on net for, I think it was, 14, 16 minutes before they got their first shot. And the other team is piling the shots on net, and your goaltender standing on his head and making all those saves. You have a tendency for that team to kind of point their skis downhill, right? You're just getting forward. You're locked in. You're trying to be like, what's the next thing we got to do to get the puck past this guy? And you start worrying about what happens behind you. It's a good defensive team, right? I know that their metrics say that they're about 17th in the league defensively, but they're also a team that doesn't have a goaltender with a save percentage over 900. Talked to Rod Brindamore before the game. That's the issue for this team. They're not getting their goaltending. They've had a lot of nights that they've lost games. They felt that they should have won. Tonight will be another one of those, although you can't blame it on their goaltending. I thought Antti Ranta was really good in that game. But the Carolina Hurricanes get so focused in on scoring that they kind of blow things and get, outmanned down the ice. And all of a sudden, boom, after two shots, suddenly the Jets are up 1-0. That's not a sustainable period. The Winnipeg Jets lost that first period, and they lost it badly, people. But they come out 1-0. Those who are celebrating that, I'm sure, are the people for years who celebrated the Winnipeg Jets, allowing Connor Hellebuyck to save the day time and time and time again. The Jets would come out with a victory, and hooray. I love this team. I love the way they play. How'd that work out for you, right? Well, not so fast. I'm not going to say that, although the second goal is a snake charmer goal. But I would say this. There is a flaw in the Carolina Hurricanes. It's the same flaw they've had for a number of years. This is a team that is great, but cannot seem to get over the hump when it comes to the playoffs, right? Well, what's their issue? I would argue that it's this. The Carolina Hurricanes, I think, play one of the best team games in the entire NHL. It made it so that they were the second best defensive team in the league last year, the best defensive team in the league the year before that. And the year before that, they were top 5 defensively. But this team can't get over the hump in the playoffs. I don't think it's a mindset thing like the Leafs, where the Leafs, I just thought the Leafs stopped competing at some point and really kind of don't show their best. I say it like this. The Carolina Hurricanes are a team built to compete the way that they compete. But when it comes down to it, this league, to a degree, is about skill. It's about high-end game-changing talent. And what the Winnipeg Jets did tonight is they won the game with their game-changing talent. And there was not game-changing talent on the other side to get over the top. Now, the Jets lose to the Edmonton Oilers. And in the end, they lose that game because game-changing talent makes it different. I contend that the Carolina Hurricanes are a team that does not have the type of game-changing talent that can be the difference maker enough times that it can get them over the hump in the playoffs. And so if that's their weakness, I thought that's where the Jets targeted their weakness tonight. The Jets were not the better team when it came to puck possession. They were not the better team when it came to getting shots on net or taking shots or any of those things. But they were the better team because Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor and Nikolai Ehlers are more game-changing, more dangerous offensively than the likes of Sebastian Aho, Andrei Svechnikov, who's injured right now and not at his best. Sorry, he's coming off an injury and told us that he feels like he's really like 70%. Or a guy like Natchez. The Jets, that was where they stood above the Carolina Hurricanes going into this game, and that's how they won this game. So I'll say this. You would not want to play this game again. Right? If you're the Jets and you were playing the Carolina Hurricanes, the game plan would not be, hey, let's get outshot 50-3 in the first period, come out 1-0, use that to leverage the team to try and make some chances. Then we'll snake charm them, and then boom, we'll hold on. And Laurent Brossoit will make two really great glove saves, game-saving glove saves right at the end of the game when it's 6-on-5, and we'll go win this one. You would never want to do that. But going back to the snake charmer offense that won them this game, I know people, hey, I'm the guy who coined the term snake charmer offense. And I know that people will look and say, Renny hates snake charming offense. On a night like tonight, when you win the game with snake charming offense, I don't mind that. I think it's a good tool to have in your toolkit. But it's a tool that I think you should bring out every once in a while. For me, the issue I always had with the Winnipeg Jets and the snake charmer offense is it became their identity. It became what they were. It became what they wanted to be. On a night like tonight, you pull it out once or twice a game, and if it makes a difference in a tight game like that, that's fine. But what I would guard against if I were the Winnipeg Jets is saying, hey, look at that. Look at that game that we just won. We don't need to back check the way that we have. We don't need to have the back pressure. We don't need to possess the puck more often, because what's brought the Winnipeg Jets success this season is not what we saw tonight. Sneak away with the 2 points, pull out a little bit of snake charmer. Nice to have that tool in your back pocket. And who knows, maybe even in the playoffs for a game here or there, it can make the difference. But do not allow this to seep in and try and turn it into your identity. That's my take on it. Time now to bring in the man with the best music in the business to get his take on it. All the way down from Arizona, folks. Here comes Kenny. All right, Kenny. Renny might not like snake charmer games, but the Winnipeg Jets audience absolutely loves it. Almost 300 people in the show right now. The chat room is like, after I went on my rant, there was a ton of things comments waiting for me in there. Again, I don't mind the Jets winning a game like this if they do it every once in a while. But what's your takeaway from everything?
Yeah, I mean, it was a snake charmer goal, but I wouldn't agree that it was a snake charmer offense game for the Jets, because they weren't playing that style throughout. And I understand the premise being they used the snake charmer to get back into it. I honestly just think that was excellent passing. I mean, all three guys on the line touched it, and it was more this is how confusing the play was, Sean, given the puck touches. Jordan Staal, who is a Selke candidate, got mesmerized by the puck instead of taking the guy in the high slot, which is something that you don't see from a Selke candidate happen very often, as was pointed out on the panel at the intermission. So, again, it was an interesting game for sure. That is not the way the Jets draw it up, even though we know, this was reminiscent of a game against the Montreal Canadiens a few years ago when they were firing from everywhere. But this is the situation where the public data is a little bit different than the Jets data, right? So you were just down with Rick Bowness. Rick Bowness said Rick Bowness had the scoring high danger chances at 5-3 for Carolina. Natural Stat Trick has them at 6-2. Rick said they were outchancing them after 2 periods. Natural Stat Trick says it was 5-5. So, end of the day, Natural Stat Trick says 14-8 for the Hurricanes in high danger. Rick thought it was fairly even. So, in terms of the style of play, the Jets didn't like it. And, they spent way too much time in their end in the first period. Nobody is disputing that. Laurent Brossoit had to be sharp early, as you pointed out on the broadcast, or else this game could have been 2 or 3-0, and the Jets are chasing. And now all of a sudden the Hurricanes are relentless, but now they're sitting back like Dallas, and all of a sudden it's a completely different game. Instead, the Jets get a Bronx cheer with 3:28 to go in the period. And, a minute, was it even a minute later that Kyle Connor finds the pass from Ehlers and rips home his 15th and snaps a 6-game skid, and suddenly the Jets have a little bit of confidence and are feeling good about themselves. And again, I like some things because they didn't sit back as much. Yes, the Hurricanes came at them in the third again, of course. This is not a template game for the Jets, but I didn't mind part of it in terms of structure because the chances they were giving up were not 3-on-1s. They were not 2-on-1s. They didn't really stray from their structure. So to me, it's often like what you say about Hellebuck, Sean. Laurent Brossoit was easily the most comfortable he has been all year because he knew where the shots were coming from, right? That was part of it for me. That's
Agreed.
what I saw from Brossoit. And he said it himself afterward. Sean, you were standing right beside him. He loves to have more action. There have been a couple games where the shot totals have been super low. He hadn't got comfortable. He hadn't gotten a rhythm. He got touches early. He felt the puck. He felt confidence. And he got into it. And he helped his team get into it on a night where they clearly did not have their best coming out of the gate because there was honestly almost zero offensive zone time in the first 6 or 7 minutes. It was a strange. We haven't seen the Jets spend that much time in their own. I get it against the Oilers, and that didn't concern me because they kept the Oilers to the outside. Same idea as this game here, but I don't see this being because we saw it against Edmonton and because we saw it against Carolina. I don't see the Jets slipping into bad habits in terms of allowing way too many shots on goal. I mean, we know the Jets have done a way better job keeping the shots on goal to 30 and below this year. It's part of the reason why they've been better. But today, I'm not overly concerned by this game, but I also wouldn't suggest the Jets play this way. And again, Sean, your entire point was that you play that way against Carolina. Nathan McKinnon is probably burying one of those chances. Cale Makar is probably burying one of those chances. Mikko Rantanen is probably burying one of those chances. So we know Svechnikov is not at the 40-plus game or point or goal level like he was last year. Aho's playing pretty well. Winnipegger Seth Jarvis is improving his game. I thought he was excellent for the Hurricanes tonight. All around the net, a couple really good chances. But yeah, they don't have that same elite level sniper. So for all the folks who get all riled up about Kyle Connor, he's not good defensively, yada, yada, yada. Well, do you want someone who's good defensively all the time? Or do you want someone who almost has 20 goals in his first quarter plus of the year and in a tie game can break the game open with a ridiculous snipe after a perfect pass by Nikolai Ehlers, right? So there's always a back and forth when it comes to that. So again, most important thing coming out of this game, Sean, and I'm dropping early wake-ups here, Pristine Roofing wake up. The wake up goes to the folks that were saying last game that the Jets needed to trade for a new backup. That's wake up territory. Come on. It was a slow start for Brossoit. But this is why the Jets had confidence in Brossoit. They didn't need to play him against the Chicago Blackhawks to try to build his confidence. They played him against one of the best teams in the East, and he went out and played the way that he looked last year with the Vegas Golden Knights. So that's an early Pristine wake-up call in the buffet. Sorry, I don't usually do that, but there we have it.
Don't apologize. People love getting woken up by Ken Wiebe. It's like the best sounding alarm clock that's out there. And Ken's finally catching on to the whole pristine wake-up call. He's diving into – I've been having to do the wake-up calls here. I'm not the wake-up guy. This is not my catchphrase. Why am I using your catchphrase all the time? I love it. Kenny with the early wake-up call, and you know what that means. It's time to give North End Rick the wake-up call. You can do that by giving him a call at 1-204-981-6289. He's the guy who will come down and help you out if you've got siding issues, exterior issues, roofing issues. He's the guy who will be down there for pristine to tell you what you need, walk you through the process. He's a pretty good guy, that North End Rick. He's the guy you want out there. And if you don't want to go through North End Rick, you can go through Pristine Roofing at 1-204-237-7663. The early wake-up call by Ken Weeb. I'm absolutely loving it.
I'm on mountain time, buddy. Sorry, I'm on mountain time.
There you go.
I'm just trying to catch up here.
Bringing it. There you go. And I got to say, Noxie throws this out there. He says, that's a nice suit,
yeah,
Sean.
buddy.
I felt a little uncomfortable because Ken, he doesn't exactly look like a Vittorio Rossi, man. He looks like a guy who spent some time on the golf course today with former Jets broadcaster
Confirmed.
Dennis Bayuk. Excellent stuff. So you look good for a guy who's going golfing, but Noxie's right. This is a nice suit, and it's a nice suit because it came from Frankie and the boys down at Vittorio Rossi. You want to look like this? You want a suit like this? There's one place in Winnipeg to get it, folks. That's down on Corden Avenue at Vittorio Rossi, where you can walk in, loudly proclaim Kenny and Renny sent you, ask for Frankie and the boys, and they will take care of you. They will do you up right. All right. I will say this, Ken, because I think you're right. There's a little bit of a balance to be done here with the Winnipeg Jets. One of the things that I would say that I agree with you 100%, I thought the Jets did a really good job of protecting the home plate, like shots and one of the things I can't stand about, when you get into shot metrics and blocked shots and shot attempts and all those kind of things, you could see by the end of the game, the Carolina Hurricanes were just throwing the puck in from everywhere. And on this night, it probably allows it allows Laurent Brossoit to kind of get into a rhythm. He said it to me. He liked the first period. You saw it. He said it in the post game. I had him on the bench interview. I don't know if you saw it on the broadcast, but Laurent Brossoit said, I like that first period. I like getting into it. I like playing games like that. So I almost do think that in an effort to just throw everything at the net, the Carolina Hurricanes kind of built Laurent Brossoit up to a place where he became like near invincible. Bobby B says the wake-up call I thought was for LB, as he clearly was wide awake tonight. Yeah, someone gave him the pristine roofing wake-up call before the game started, no doubt. But I will say this, the reason that happened is because I thought the Jets did a really good job of protecting the home plate area. And to your point, Ken, when it comes to the high danger chances, it was the Winnipeg Jets who had the real bangers, right? Like the one for Kyle Connor going in like that. That's a great opportunity. It's a pass across. Hard for Raanta to set himself. Hard for a scorer like Kyle Connor not to score. There you go. Then the other one, and I just have to say, like, the ability for Mark Scheifele to find guys who get lost in the weeds. And when he does it, it's typically him grinding the puck along the boards, how he was in this case, going down into the corner with a guy right on top of him and turning in a split second, finding the most dangerous Winnipeg Jet on the ice. Ken, I can tell you from playing hockey and playing rec and all these different kind of stuff, senior hockey, you can be that guy who gets lost in the weeds and pops up in the most dangerous spot on the ice. And how often does the guy with the puck actually find you? At our level of hockey, it's almost never. At the NHL level, I still don't think it's high. The amount of times that Kyle Connor gets lost in the weeds and pops up in a dangerous spot, and Mark Scheifele finds him in a heartbeat and gets the puck to him. Same thing tonight with Nick Ehlers is special. I thought that first line for the Winnipeg Jets tonight, despite everything we see about all the different metrics, I actually kind of thought that line was a little bit dominant tonight, Ken.
They were, and sorry, I'm just going to put a bow tie on our Brossoit discussion here, Sean, just because I think it's important that we extend the same courtesy to Brossoit that we did to Connor Hellebuck after 4 starts. Brossoit, after today's game, Sean, suddenly has a 265 goals against average and a 903 save percentage. So, you play one really good game and all of a sudden you're set sort of back to where you're headed. And, we've said this about Hellebuck. The days of these two being sub 900 goaltenders they're in the past. In terms of the top line, Sean, you hit the nail on the head. And I know you asked Nikolai Ehlers about it. The top line was excellent for the Jets. And Rick Bowness went one further. Rick Bowness said they've been their best line since they've been together, and that's high praise given how well the Lowry line has played for the Winnipeg Jets this year. They've been the most consistent line. I mean, there's no disputing that. Today, it's interesting. I'd like to know your thoughts, again, because you're in the building. I'm watching on TV here in Arizona.
Right.
I didn't love the fact that Bowness was going head-to-head Lowry's line against Jordan Staal. It sort of kind of felt like they got. I didn't like that. I would have preferred him against.
Did you see my opener? Did you see my opener?
I did not.
On the show?
They didn't show that. They only clipped. They only got the feed going when the anthems were happening.
Okay, so
I missed it. Sorry.
Story of the day, and I honestly think like now maybe this is Renny thinking too much into this and think he's got a greater effect. But a really interesting moment, Ken, because we talked about, hey, we had Bukala on the other day. And we were talking about the best third lines in hockey. These are two of the best, right? And there's a lot of people who will statistically tell you that although they don't score as much as Adam Lowry's line does, that third line for the Carolina Hurricanes is the best third line in the league. There's a lot of statisticians who will tell you that's the case. I see a lot of similarities in those two lines, right? They can can all bang. They both got twin towers of centermen who are the captains of their team, consistently play the game the right way, affect the outcome. They're the kind of lines that can play super skilled guys and shut them down. They're the kind of lines that can play really heavy lines and shut them down, right? I went to Jordan Staal with that, and I said, I see a lot of similarities. And Jordan Staal kind of blew me away. I was standing there with Singer, and he said to me, first of all, I just want to say what an honor it is that you would compare me to Adam Lowry. Great line. You're talking about a two-time Stanley Cup champ here.
18-year veteran.
18-year veteran, and he says, like, wow, thank you for comparing me to Adam Lowry. Well, so Ken,
interesting.
I take it over, and I'm in the dressing room. I'm doing the Jets dressing room. I'm looking for stories, and I see Adam, and I walk over to him, and I say, Adam, I'm always have been told that if someone says something really nice about someone, that if you've got the opportunity, you should let that person know that it was said about them. So I said that to Adam, and I said, you know what? I've been told I'm always supposed to be the kind of guy who, if someone says something nice about someone, I should tell them. So I wanted to tell you, I was just talking with Jordan Staal, and I said I saw a lot of similarities between your line and his line, and his response was, I really appreciate you. That's an honor that you would compare me to Adam Lowry. Adam Lowry is like, what? What? Are you serious? And he said he gets this huge smile on his face, and he says, I've been trying to be Jordan Staal my entire NHL career. The fact that you said that he said, or that he believes that's like, wow. And I basically was like, well, hey, and I walked away, and he literally, you could see. So I think what happened was after that, we went into the coaches meeting. So these are all the things that aren't on camera that happen behind the scenes. And we have to have a good conversation about something. You'll have to remind me. Rick Bowness said, we'll get Sammy when he's in here, because he was in on this. Yeah. And Rod Brindamore, because he said some really interesting stuff behind the scenes about the Jets that I wanted to tie into as well. But Sammy asked Rick Bowness if he was like, hey, are you going to go match those lines, third line to third line out of this situation here? I honestly think it was this kind of giant thing where these two guys are showing this immense level of respect for each other. They're seeing it. The coach is saying, typically, I would like to put this guy up against, I'd like Adam Lowry against Sebastian Aho's line, right? That's the line that you're fully expecting. When it happened on the face-off, I thought, okay, maybe they're doing this as one of these things. It's a
for
special
Nino.
night.
For Nino.
Yeah.
After or the extension, Nino. I almost felt like.
Yeah, but no, like I honestly think what happened in that situation was there was an understanding that this had happened, that there had been this tip of the cap from one captain and a tip of the cap to the other. And Rick Bowness thought in that moment, you know what? Let's let them do it. Let's let these two guys go out there and compete. I think it's good for the game. I think it's good for the crowd there that night. And in the end, I know things switched out a little bit, but the bet was, I think Mark Scheifele's line does not need the benefit of the other top line being shut down. So I think Mark Scheifele's line is the most skilled line in this game, and they're going out there and doing that tonight. I think that's what happened, Ken. If that is what happened, wow, that's a really cool story, I think, for Adam Lowry. Now, I know some people were saying they didn't think he had the best night, and that's probably one of the toughest nights that Adam Lowry would have going up against that competition. But I say this again, basically, if Adam Lowry has looked at Jordan Staal and been, that's the guy I've been trying to emulate my entire career, to be given the opportunity by his coach to go up against him on a night where he was given amazing praise by that player, I think it's a super classy move by Rick Bones.
Yeah, I mean, that's totally fine. I don't think that they did great in that matchup, and I think that they would have been able to impose their will against another line. So
agreed.
We're used to them being the human battering ram. So
yes.
I mean, again, if you want to say they played the Staal line even, and that's a win, that's fine. I just don't know that. And again, they didn't necessarily go hard match against them the rest of the game, and that's sort of like. I'm not trying to Monday morning quarterback here. I'm just saying
I know
that line was not as effective, Sean. So if I'd come on after
it was not, but you know whose was the first line.
Oh, sure, and maybe that was sure.
If you go and you put a Lowry's line on Aho, it's probably frees it up for Rod Brindamore to try and have his third line and Jordan Staal go up against Mark Scheifele's line the whole night. And who knows how that turns out, right? Like,
well, we know how it turned out. That line scored twice, and Aho had nothing. So
right, exactly.
They elevated that, and you're right. So if Lowry's line plays Stahl's line to a stalemate, and Scheifele's line goes 2-0 against Aho, then it's a win all around. I totally get it. I just think that this is one of the games where we didn't notice that line churning and making life incredibly difficult, to their opponent, because we're used to them hemming in their opposition at leisure almost, and that just didn't happen today. So that part of the matchup I didn't love, but you're right. This question started on the Scheifele line. Scheifele's line was fantastic. I mean, Kyle Connor, let's not underestimate the importance of Kyle Connor scoring a beauty like he did.
Yes.
He hadn't scored in 6 games. And
November
I get it.
18th. November 18th is a long time ago. Yeah.
He had 22 shots on goal in between. So it's not like he was going, disappearing from earth. That's not what happened here with Kyle Connor. He just went through a stretch where they weren't finding the back of the net with regularity. And when you're a sniper, that can get a little bit annoying, even though Kyle doesn't necessarily show those feelings. So it was important for him to score. It's important for that line to touch the puck, to share the puck, to use their speed, all of those things. So, yeah, I mean, that line, along with Brossoit, were the 2 main reasons that the Jets won this game. There's no disputing that. And for me, it's another great step forward for that line, because we weren't sure how long this line was going to stay together, Sean, right? I mean, this is something where we know that he's played great with Perfetti. So how long might he stay on that line? Well, they're certainly going to stay a little bit longer after a game like that, and there's no reason they can't stay together longer term. And I know you and I have talked about this before. I love Vilardi with Perfetti, because he's a guy that is strong on the puck. He's got really nice hands, and he's a great finisher. So I think there could be a really nice combo platter with Perfetti and Vilardi as they move forward, but it's going to take some time in terms of where they're going and what they're going to look like, and whether or not Ehlers and Vilardi flip-flop, we'll see. But I do think that it's worth rolling out a little bit longer. We've talked about this before. The Ehlers line often gives up more than it gets, and I don't think that's really been the case in terms of what we've seen from them since they've been put together. So I liked what I saw, and I want to see more of it. I mean, doesn't mean they have to stay together permanently either, but I liked what I saw. There's a lot there, and the ability to share the puck with the Snake Charmer goal, to me, that means, Sean, we've talked about this for years. Mark and Kyle like to play with a straight line player. You know what Nikolai Ehlers is not? A straight line player. He's an east-west player with incredible speed, but he sometimes is hard to read off of. So the fact that they're starting to get rolling, that's important for the Winnipeg Jets. But now too, what are we going to see on Thursday, right? We've spent a lot of time around Jared Bednar the last couple of years, Sean. How's that line going to play against Cale Makar? Are they going McKinnon versus Scheifele? Are they going to go hard checking line against them? Like, it's going to be interesting. Like, anyways, don't want to look too far into the crystal ball here, But I think it's going to be a fascinating matchup. This game was interesting. I think we should talk about the D briefly before Sammy comes on. Personally, I'll just throw it out there. You were there. I didn't love the Jets going with 7 defense. I thought, I understand that there were, Declan Chisholm, it wasn't all rainbows in his first game, but he had the least amount of ice time in the first period. All of the things that we saw from Chisholm, we barely saw any of them today because I don't think he got into a rhythm. We didn't see a lot of zone exits. We didn't see a lot of him activating defensively. Logan Stanley was in, obviously, for some of the penalty killing, but I felt like there was a lot of disruption on the back end today. It didn't seem like there was as much cohesion with them going 11-7, and I'm okay with 11-7 as a premise. I just don't think it did Declan Chisholm any favors, and I don't know that after this game you would say, you have to keep either one of Stanley or Chisholm in. You could go back to Nate Schmidt quite easily on Thursday, but I would have liked to have seen more ice time for Declan Chisholm personally in that game.
Well, I agree. Here's my theory on what happened with the 11-7 thing. So this is an interesting one. Natchez on the other side plays for the fourth line for the Carolina Hurricanes. Now it's interesting because he doesn't play fourth line minutes. Like he's up around 19 minutes and he'll get on the power play.
Oh yeah.
But they have him coming out on the fourth line quite often. And so what it is it's a little bit of a sneaky secret weapon. So Rod Brind'Amour, and I found this fascinating because when I saw he was on the fourth line, that didn't make sense to me. And I saw that he didn't make fourth line minutes and that didn't make sense to me either. But I thought, well, what is about the idea of like his ability to maybe elevate players around him? Right. And what I got from Rod Brind'Amour was essentially the idea that we all know Sidney Crosby's that guy who like took Colby Armstrong and made him, a 29, like essentially a 30 goal scorer. Like I've said this on this podcast before. The one thing that we won't look back in history, like will be erased just by the numbers, is people not realizing that out of all the really great star players that have ever played and guys who are in the top 20 all-time scoring, Sidney Crosby is a guy who basically carried his line mates. And one of the things that made that team great is you could give all the really good players to Evgeny Malkin. And God, the last cup that the Pittsburgh Penguins won, I believe Sidney Crosby had 2 players on his line who'd been playing college hockey that year. And they were the number 1 line. And he went on to win the Conn Smythe Trophy that year. That's insane. So essentially what I was hearing from Rod Brind'Amour is Natchez is like let's call it a poor man's version of Sidney Crosby in that he said, when I put him with really good players, he plays great. But when I put him with not so great players, I still seem to get the same out of him. So what it's done is it's that depth cheat where you can take and put him on the fourth line. And now all of a sudden you've got a dangerous fourth line out there. And I think one of the reasons the Jets went 11-7 was to nullify that, to make sure that it was usually more often the third line or having a high-end skilled player out with David Gustafsson and with the rest of that line to kind of balance what the Hurricanes have snuck past teams with Natchez. If that's the case, I think it's a really smart ploy by Rick Bowness. If that's what he was trying to do, he almost fully neutralized it, although Natchez did have a goal tonight. And I thought Natchez looked dangerous. If that was the purpose, Natchez, I thought, was the most dangerous looking offensive player for the Carolina Hurricanes. And if that played a role in shutting him down, then I think the 11-7, was a good decision. Sammy's in the green room. But before we bring him in, Ken, I want you to give a shout out to our main man, Sweet Lou.
For sure, for folks who need real estate assistance, you can contact Lou Furlan of Rolla Page Dynamic Realty, 204-791-9971, or at the office, 204-989-5000. His email is lou@loufurlan.ca. That's LOU@LOUFURLAN.ca. Lou Furlan, excellent realtor, excellent human being, and excellent supporter of the community. And if you're looking for real estate needs that need to be met, tell them Kenny and Renny sent you.
No doubt. Now that means we're getting to our buy and sell segment. We might as well bring Sammy in for it and give him the choice. Tremendous. Of course, the scarf. I'm loving it.
That's a new one too. That's a new one.
There's a lot of Jets colors in there too. I would suggest, including I think even the new blue that they were using for their Fly the 48 jerseys here
There you
tonight.
go.
You get the choice first, Sammy. Are you buying or are you selling, and what are you buying or selling?
What am I buying? I'm buying Laurent Brossoit. First period changed the entire complexion of the game and set the foundation, and the boys, I think, responded pretty well thereafter. It was a much more of an even tilt after that, but my goodness, that was something else. Like that was dominating. 16 and a half minutes, no shots, and they kept coming and coming. But it's funny, hey Renny, like when we're there this morning and we're talking to Rod Brindamore, almost exactly what he said happened.
Yes.
We played really well almost all year. We've had some, I like the way he put it, is we had some inconsistencies in certain areas of our game, and no fault on the goaltending there. But my gosh, to outshoot your opponent, to have great chances, to come away nothing, and then on the second shot of the game for Connor, Winnipeg scores. It's crazy to think how that game ended up going. But I do give the Jets a ton of credit, because second and third periods, Claps protected the house really well, created some good opportunities. They could have, there was probably 3 or 4 chances to get another one there, and they couldn't finish it off. Think about the Connor breakaway. I think about the poke check on Ehlers by Ranta. I think about the Connor spin around shot that just missed. Like, there were some other chances for the taking there, but at the end of the day, they do what they do. They keep the opponent under 3, and they just keep her moving. So I'm buying on Laurent Brossoit's performance this evening. Looked like he had an Edmonton Oil Kings jersey on. That's what our producer Barry Bach said.
Yeah.
So, which, like, he's got a lot of length, right? He's a big guy, but he's got long limbs. And so there are times, I think, in junior where you looked at his net and you couldn't see any. And I think that's the way Carolina felt tonight. I mean, heck, the only goal that went in went off DeMello's skate.
Yeah.
Ken, are you buying or selling?
I'm also buying. I'm buying a good deal for Nino Niederreiter for both parties. I think that this number is right around. I think some folks wondered if you might sneak up to 4.5, but I'm also buying the explanation from Niederreiter today, Sean. You were there. I love the awareness. When a player in the middle class says the middle class is shrinking, I'll take the $4 million and I'll take it to the bank. I won't be worried about getting squeezed on a 1-year deal as a 32-year-old, or maybe taking 2. Sean, this is so much like the Paul Stastny situation. It's uncanny. Paul Stastny comes to the Jets. People assume he's going to have to take a haircut. He plays great, gets a raise. Nino Niederreiter on a 2-year deal. Things are going okay in Nashville, but not great. Man, I wonder if he's going to be getting squeezed down to a $3 million player. No, thank you. I'll fit in just fine here and continue to be a $44 million player until I'm 35 years old. But to me, a great deal. Sam, you know this. He's a perfect guy to have around. When Rutger McGroarty is ready, when Colby Barlow's ready, you want a guy like that around. The Jets want to get those skilled players to the blue paint. Take a look at Nino. A guy who has been a top 6 player for the bulk of his career, has accepted this role, knows he can move up at some time if that's what his coach asks him to do. I love this move for the Jets, and I love this move for Niederreiter because he has moved around a little bit, and he's gone conference to conference and still been a 20-goal guy at both places. So I love this move, and I know, Sam, you watched him on the way up to in some of those great Portland teams. Travis Green absolutely loves this guy from having coached him. I think this is a guy who could easily be wearing a letter for the Jets. But Sean, much like Brendan Dillon, he's a guy that does not have to wear a letter in order to have an impact in the leadership group for me. That's why I'm buying on Nino Niederreiter.
You know what? He's McDonald's. This guy's like going to McDonald's. You know exactly what you're getting every single time you go to the window. You know exactly what you're getting. That's what he does. The guy's like McDonald's.
I gotta say this. Credit to Kevin Cheveldayoff, not only for getting this deal done, but for last year recognizing the kind of players that he took the trade deadline and turned it into free agency, guys. Because essentially what happens is it's supposed to be rentals at the trade deadline. Kevin Cheveldayoff went out and tried to identify guys who couldn't find the littlest hobos. He went out, hey, the littlest hobo is a badass. That was an awesome show. I loved that dog, right? But nowhere was his home, right? He was constantly roaming. Maybe someday he's going to settle down. Well, he brought the littlest hobos into Winnipeg and got guys like Vladdy Namestnikov, who's been everything you could have hoped for from a fourth liner. Nino Niederreiter, who's everything you could have hoped for not for a liner, fourth rounder, and Nino Niederreiter for a second rounder, and turned those guys into long-term assets. You have to take a look at what Kevin Cheveldayoff did. Did it ever pay off? And that makes me transition. If you're looking to pay off high interest credit cards or debt, we suggest you go talk to our friends at Cambrian Credit Union about their payoff loan. They can show you how taking out a loan to pay off your debt actually gets you debt free faster, and you can save thousands of dollars. Go to cambrian.mb.ca to book an appointment online. Sammy, to the point you were talking about Rod Brindamore and basically what he said was happened in the game. I wanted to bring you in for this conversation because we talked with Rick Bowness and he was a little prophetic as well. Ken, it reminds me that series we covered between St. Louis and Dallas, where every single game the coaches would come out and say, I brought this guy in. This is what's going to happen. And it happened. It was prophetic. But Rick Bowness talked about a team like this Carolina Hurricanes team who is going to take a big chunk and it's going to be hard to win the puck possession battle against. And he said, what we asked him, what do you got to do to survive games like this? His answer was score the first goal. How did that change the way the Jets could play going forward in that game, and how the Carolina Hurricanes had to address that game once the Jets got that first goal?
Well, you're Carolina. You literally for 16 and a half minutes did no wrong. You did no wrong. And so when that happens and you come away with it with nothing, and then to make things worse, you're down one, that's really, really deflating. And so the same bad energy that Winnipeg went into the room with, because they didn't have a great first period, Carolina went into the room with worse energy because they had a great first period and still came out behind. So it changed the way things went the rest of the game, because they're able to get out of that first 20 minutes up one. They came back in the second and third and made it a much more even game. But there is no question that they were badly outplayed in that first period. That's the way the ball bounces sometimes, though. And good on the Jets for kind of just sticking with it, capitalizing on the opportunities, getting a good goaltending performance, and then kind of changing the course of the game thereafter. Like, that's what good teams do. Sometimes it's not an oil painting, right? Sometimes it's just, hey, we're going to win by hook or by crook, and that's the way we're going to get it done in this game. And that's a good win against a really good team.
Yeah. Sammy, last time you were through town, Gabriel Velarde was not in the lineup. Just curious for your thoughts as he continues to work himself back in here, third game back. Really starting to see the hands come. It looks like the conditioning is coming around, but what kind of impact can he have in terms of boosting that top six here?
Well, he needs to be a guy. Like, it's not – I don't think it's a question. I think, if the Jets are successful and are talking about playoffs and advancing and that sort of thing, he's going to have to be a producer. He has all of the tools to be that guy. I've seen it. The one thing that's missing, that has been missing most of his career, and I know he doesn't like to talk about it, but is like his availability. Everyone talks about what's your best ability. Well, your best ability is your availability. And that's been a challenge for him to this point in his career. Having said that, with his 68 or 70 games played last year, the most in his career, he set career highs in all of the, in all the categories. So again, I know he was pretty ticked with having to answer that question. He talked a little bit about his former teammate there in LA, Lazat, and how that went down. But at the end of the day, he's got to find a way to get back up to speed. The hands look good. I think, the brace he plays with, I know for sure it limited on a couple of turns and stops and cutbacks and that. He's going to have to get more used to playing with that. But he has great shooting ability. He's really good in front of the net at tipping pucks. He's really good at picking up rebounds in front of the net. And I think as he continues to be more confident in his health, you'll start to see the game that I witnessed for a long time in Windsor. And I think it's just a matter of time. But again, he has to be available, and he has to have health on his side.
Guys, I just want to go back quickly to that whole idea of what Rick has been talking about when it comes to these kind of games, because I think that's the thing to look forward to, or to really watch for going forward. The Winnipeg Jets, it's been a while, Ken, and Sam, I think, since we've seen one of those Jets games at the beginning of the year where they're just kind of steamrolling the opposition, where they've got the puck and they're just not going to let the other team play with it. Like, we've seen a number of games here now where it's gone in the other direction. And there's going to be a certain level of talent where the Jets just can't play that game where they steamroll teams. So they have to find other ways to win. And Bonus has really harped on this idea of them needing to score first. I just kind of wanted to point out the idea of, I thought the desperation that we saw with the way that Carolina was trying to create offense tonight, just kind of throw everything at the net. I thought what happened was the Jets were patient, and then in the moments where where something opened up, they were ready to go, right? Like, they were patient and they were poised, to go when that opportunity arose. And it just felt like, because they were down, the Carolina Hurricanes really needed to push to generate. I don't think that bodes well for a team like that doesn't have. Now, if you're the Edmonton Oilers and you need to push to generate, well, you've got Connor McDavid, you've got Leon Draisaitl, you've got these guys who can go out there and just like be everything you can handle. And then you've got, guys like Hyman and Nugent Hopkins who can come out afterwards, Kane, and kind of affect things as well. So that bodes well for a team like that. A team like the Carolina Hurricanes that score by committee, I don't think that works out very well. I think you get in a situation where, like, everyone's kind of looking at everyone to do something, and then everyone gets like a little bit like, okay, well, we got to go, because you don't have that confidence of that one big line or those high-end players coming out to pull it off. And I just saw tonight that, like, Rick was really prophetic. Once the Jets got that first goal, I do kind of feel, Sammy, like Carolina was never the same. Like, they were bowling over the Jets and they were getting a lot of shots, but their shots to me seemed to be a lot more direct, a lot more pushing the puck to the front of the net. And then once the Jets took the lead, it felt like their offense got a lot more desperate. And I just thought that was an interesting take by Rick Bowness that really proved to be prophetic heading into that game. One other thing I wanted to talk about because Brindamore before the game, I thought had some, like you'd said, had some really interesting comments. Basically said this is the kind of game they've been having all year, where they go out and they are the better team and they find ways not to lose. Usually it's the goaltending, not this. But what he had really pointed out before the game that ended up being prophetic as well, Sammy, was he talked about the Winnipeg Jets high-end skill, right? Yeah. And he talked about how good they were. I don't know if you heard his talks after the game, but he'd said, like, he puts the Jets high-end skill up there with anybody else in the league when those guys get going, and said those guys won the game for him. But I was wondering if you could share with our audience how you felt, Rod, like the Winnipeg Jets and their high-end talent looks through a guy like Rod Brindamore's eyes.
Well, I think it's highly, highly complimentary. And, if you remember, Sean, another part of that conversation was, we've been talking about this Jets team for a long time, and we envisioned it in its current iteration, and it hasn't been there previously.
Yeah. So, I think his words were, this is what we always thought the Winnipeg Jets should look like. Yeah. Yeah.
And what does that mean? Well, it means the Lowry line that's big and heavy and can protect pucks and is difficult to play against. And then it means, all right, the top end line with Ehlers and Connor and Scheifele, that they can sting you at any point in the game. And I don't know, I still feel Connor is that guy. Like, if he's not a game breaker, he's the closest thing to it. And when Ehlers is moving his feet, and if he can do it consistently, like, really, really, he's a real good threat. And of course, Scheifele's proven over and over again that he can put up points in this league. So, those high-end guys are really important. Now, moving down the list, Iafallo he's a marvelous, marvelous player. To me, though, on a championship team, he's probably a third-line guy where he can have the biggest impact for you, okay? So now you're looking at Perfetti has obviously taken big strides this year. Velarde, got to be healthy. And then who is it that's going to round out that top part? I mean, do you put Vladdy in there and push Perfetti off to the wing and allow Velarde to play the other side, giving Velarde enough time? Because I do believe at some point Velarde can play center. And then you look at the third line they have, and now you can mix and match with Barron and Janssen Fjallby and whoever else you want to put on line 4, Gustafsson, so on and so forth. But I think it's imperative, probably for the Jets, to just add one more piece to that top 6, and that's a real tall task to do that. But Sean, getting back to your point about Carolina, is when you throw your top guys out, or Edmonton rather, when you throw your top guys out there, you want to be able to back them up with another group that maybe is not quite as good, but still enough to do some damage. And it's close, I think, for Winnipeg right now. It's not exactly there yet, and that's probably the one big missing piece when you talk about what would be a contender that can make a deep run.
Ken, any thoughts?
Well, I mean, we've been talking about Chris Tanev on the back, Sean. I mean, let's stay in Calgary. I mean, Sammy, what about Elias Lindholm? I mean, like, that would be kind of outside of maybe not having the size, like in terms of two-way pedigree, you add Elias Lindholm and allow Perfetti to play the wing with Velarde. I mean, that's a pretty good second line, wouldn't you say? I mean, again, I don't.
Yeah,
are you aiming higher? Are you looking more for a sniper, or what are you looking more for?
I think a little bit. So listen, I like Lindholm, and I think he started to play better lately. But there's two things you'd have to consider. Is he a guy that you think that there's any possibility of getting long term? Right. Probably not. But the asset value you're going to have to give up for him as a rental is, for me, in my opinion, is not going to be worth what you're going to get. And again, is he a game changer in a second line role? You might have said that 3 years ago when he had Kachuk and Gaudreau on his wings. I don't know if he's that guy anymore. So who would that player be? I mean, I don't know. I guess I'd have to look at the market. For me, that's probably not the guy. Okay. And another reason is if I'm looking down the long term, is Perfetti going to be a guy who can play center, and is Velarde a guy who can play center? So now if you're coming after me with like Scheifele, Lowry, Perfetti, Velarde, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. So I don't know. I think it's more of like that winger scorer type guy. You're obviously looking for value. You're probably looking deep into the analytics for someone that you can pick up for fair value, and maybe someone that you might a Western Hockey League kid or someone like that who might fit that bill. Again, I'd have to go through the list of who might be available, but I think that's more the type of player I'm looking for. I think this team is pretty good defensively. It's pretty good with its two-way guys. I want to see someone that's going to lean a little bit more to the offensive side, even if there are some warts defensively.
Guys, we got to start getting into some of our fun parts of the show with the Johnston Group Got You Covered and the keg save of the game, and of course the TCB lamplighter. Before we do that, it's been called for, gentlemen. It's time to make this a Sean's Headband version of the Kenny and Renny show. Here we go. Headbands, scarves, convertibles. We've got it all in this show here tonight. Yes, we do. Moving on. Johnston Group Got You Covered play of the game. Ken, I'm going to start with you because I know you got it.
Yeah, buddy. I had to text you in real time so I wouldn't forget this time. Carolina pressing. Jordan Stahl thinks he has a prime scoring area from the high slot, and there's Mason Appleton diving to lift his stick. Just a tremendous defensive effort. As we mentioned, on a night where that line wasn't its normal dominant grind you into the ground self, I thought that was just an excellent play by Mason Appleton to take away a good scoring chance before it could become an even better scoring chance. That's an easy pick for me.
I think so too. Did you want to weigh in, Sam?
Dylan, great stick all night long. especially in the first period off the Teravainen shot, like 20 or 30 seconds in, saved a goal. Saved a goal there. So he's got me covered.
Yeah, I'm liking Ken's take on that. It was I think that's a super solid one. Not only is it a dive, but it's a dive with like one hand to interrupt the shot. It's like he's reaching, he's laying out with everything he got. And to me, it's just another example of the compete that the Jets have built into this team. God, we should get into the culture conversation too, Sammy, at some point if we can get through this quickly here, because of great comments made by Rick Bowness. That's an example of the culture change I believe that we've seen in Winnipeg, that kind of effort, that all-out effort to try and hold the game. So to me, Ken, I think that that's a great example of the Johnson Group got you covered play of the game. And hey, do you run a small business in Canada? Look to Canada's #1 employee benefits plan, Chambers Plan, to give you a competitive edge. Chambers Plan is the simple, stable, smart choice for over 30,000 businesses countrywide. Visit chamberplan.ca to learn more. Okay, lots to pick from, but gentlemen, Keg save of the game. Sammy, let's start with you.
Keg save of the game. You know what? I'm going to flip the script here a little bit. Okay. I'm going Ranta.
on Kyle Connor.
Yeah, crazy. On Ehlers.
The stick chip on Ehlers.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
Yeah.
Fair.
And so earlier in the game, Ehlers flipped the puck over the D-man stick to shoot it going against the grain. Second period. I'm like, dude, just flip it over a stick and go get him. And he tried. Maybe he just thought he had more time than he did. But Ranta made an unbelievable play there. Otherwise it's 3-1 and it's nighty-night long before we thought it was nighty-night, because it really came down to the wire there. But so I'm going to throw that one at you there.
Let me jump in with one here, because I think I sent something to Ken. Yeah, I need it again, Ken. Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. But
I like right at the end there's a save on Seth Jarvis, the hometown boy, who I thought was intent on playing hero. It's interesting. Laurent Brossoit was asked about it by Murat Atesh, and he didn't know what play he was talking about. And I'd said, are you sure? Like, it was at the end. You made the glove save in tight. He kind of moves it over. I just thought, you could see by Seth Jarvis's face that he was kind of like, it's one of those like looking up at the sky moments, like, boy, what's it going to take to beat this guy? But it was the calm and the poise with Laurent Brossoit did it with, like, Laurent Brossoit is a real low biorhythm, right? Like he just operates really slow, and you talk with him, Sam. I think you were in on the on the headset to hear him after the game. He's just a really low, chill guy, and that save looked exactly like that. And I can only think that in that moment of the game, that's intimidating, right? Like, not only does he steal it from you, but he looks like he just was barely even trying to do so. He was dialed in tonight. We've been waiting for a game like this for Laurent Brossoit. The conversation we'll probably have to have going forward, Ken. I don't think we have time for it today, but I mean, do the Jets, if he has another start like that after his next start, do the Jets need to start adjusting how they put their goaltenders out? Because I would not want to be cooling down what we saw from Laurent Brossoit. Anyways, that's my Keg save of the game. Ken, did you want to jump in, or should we just go?
Yeah, no, I'm just going to say, I mean, 15 in the first period. I mean, they weren't as many of the high danger variety as you two have been mentioning, but there were some still pretty good scoring chances early. I mean, I didn't peg one of them, but I just thought he showed you early that he was on his game. Yeah. There had been times when Brossoit has been swimming a little bit in the crease and looking a little bit uncomfortable, but today he was dialed from the beginning, and he made it clear that the opponent was going to make it very difficult. And as Sam mentioned, I mean, that's just a tough break for him. That's a shutout outside of the prayer wraparound from behind the net off the skate. I mean, that's good on Natchez, but that's a fluke. There's nothing else there.
Oh, Rennie's frozen.
Oh, we got the deep freeze.
Nice.
Okay, no problem. Until we get him back,
I think it's from the headband.
Yeah, I think so. I will mention the winner of the Keg save of the game came in our comments section. That's Third Fritz is the winner of the Keg save of the game.
Who's that
Sean
now?
coming back in. Third Fritz. There you are, Sean. Oh, let's get you out of this one. Okay, there we go. There we go, buddy. We're working on the fly here. The winner,
I think you just announced. Did you announce?
I just announced, yeah.
Okay, good stuff. I was going to say you heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. Ken Weeb doesn't think that the rules apply to him because he turned the keg save of the game into the keg saves of the game, but that's okay. You, though, the rest of you should follow.
Buddy, I'm on holidays. I'll create the rules here. Don't worry about it.
The rest of you should follow the rules like Third Fritz did when Third Fritz gave us their keg save of the game. And that's why they are the winner of the keg save of the game. Congratulations to Third Fritz. You know what you got to do. Direct message me at SN Sean Reynolds. Leave me your full name and an email where we can send you your voucher. And you will get a $50 voucher to be used at one of any of the 3 fine keg locations in the city of Winnipeg. Each location finer than the last. Congratulations, Third Fritz. Get a hold of me. All right, moving on to the TCB lamplighter. I know Sammy lights the lamp every single time he's in town. Why don't you do it verbally for us here and tell us what you thought the goal of the game was?
For the lamplighter?
Yeah.
I'm gonna go Ehlers here. Because when he's moving his feet, he just seems to be like more of a, I guess it's a stupid statement, more of a dynamic guy. But I seen when his feet are going and his hands are matching his feet, that's when he's at his very best. And I think we saw a lot of that in his game tonight. But top shelf, pretty sick. I gotta love it. There's only 2 to choose from, so that's where I'm going.
Yeah, Ken.
Yeah, no argument here. Anytime you have, I think 4 or 5 passes, all 3 of the line mates touched it to multiple, or 2 guys touched it multiple times, and the other guy made a brilliant pass. We hung it out here and waited for you to look at him, and then found the guy in the high slot. Absolutely brilliant pass by Scheifele, but great motion through the neutral zone created that separation that allowed him to kind of get lost in translation there, lost in traffic, and then just a great finish. Again, in terms of what the Jets needed, that Kyle Connor goal is huge, but the Ehlers snipe is just an absolute beauty. One of the prettiest goals we've seen all year.
Yeah, I'm down with that with the lamplighter. It goes to that for a couple of reasons. A being, I said it a little bit earlier, that ability by Mark Scheifele to see the ice in a moment and find the guy. And that we talked after the game with Nikolai Ehlers about it. We've talked with Kyle Connor about it. These guys know they can get lost in these places, and they know there's one guy on the ice that is for certain going to find them. And when he finds them, the puck is exactly where it should be. The recognition, you go back and you watch these plays and you see the recognition of Mark Scheifele fighting a guy off, grinding along the boards, turning up, seeing the guy instantaneously, and off that, finding the puck onto that player's stick immediately. What a skill. He's so good at it. And I just love seeing Nikolai Ehlers whip the puck the way that he does on goals like that. It's just that he is able to generate so much velocity on those wrist shots of his. Game winner, gorgeous goal. I agree. Lamplighter, no doubt about it. That's our lamplighters on the night. And hey, all you out there, you should share with us your lamplighter. Why? Well, if you do, you're automatically entered to win a frosty, delicious 8-pack of Lamplighter Amber Ale, the absolute nectar of the gods. Just ask Sammy about it. But if you can't wait for Sean, Ken, or Sam to give you your own 8-pack, then head on down to Trans-Canada Brewing Company. Join them in their tap room at 1290 Kenniston. They got great beers, lots of lampies. I love the blueberry, great pizza, great food. You'd see all that if you came down to the December to remember Kenny and Renny Christmas/holiday party. Ken put up the link right there. Come join us December 10th. 5 o'clock, the party starts, or I think it's a 5 o'clock game, actually. So that would mean 4 o'clock, the party starts. But we're going to have a live
7 o'clock game, brother. 7 o'clock game. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
6
Anaheim,
o'clock.
7 o'clock game. Yeah.
Nice.
I must have been looking at the Anaheim.
You're thinking about the.
time.
No, you're thinking
Yes,
about the. Yeah. There you go. Buddy.
My heart's in California is where it is right now. Anyway, come on down, folks. It's going to be a heck of a time. We'd love to see as many there as possible. That would be absolutely phenomenal. And that means that our winner of the TCB Lamplighter from our last show is Larry TSG. Larry TSG,
Larry's
a name
in
we
here
well
still, or he
recognize.
has been.
Good to see Larry being in here. Larry, you know what to do. Direct message me at SN Sean Reynolds. Full name, email, and I will get you your voucher for a frosty, delicious 8-pack of Lamplighter Amber Ale, the nectar of the gods. Congratulations. I wanted to talk about this before we go, Sam, because you were in on this conversation. We've talked about it quite a bit. We've saved. Paulie says, "Save of the game is Sammy saving this show." He's right. Let's call a spade a spade. He's right. I wanted to talk about this. Ken, we've talked about it quite a bit, the culture change on this show for the Winnipeg Jets, and we've had people call us out before. I know there's someone who always, whenever I talk about the culture issue here, that just downright attacks what I'm saying and is offended by my suggestion that there was ever anything less than perfect about the culture in the Winnipeg Jets dressing room. You talked about it a little bit there, Sammy. Rod Brindamore is saying this is what he had expected for years that the Winnipeg Jets would look like or should have looked like. We took that to Rick Bowness and told him about them saying that, and his response was one thing needed to happen before we did that. What was it?
Well, there was two things that he wanted to do when he came in, and the one was change the culture, and that was clearly evident. And the other was get the D more involved. So one was an off-ice issue, one was an on-ice issue. And so they, like you bring in someone like Nino Niederreiter at the trade deadline, okay? He's just, like I said, he's McDonald's. You know exactly what you're getting every day. This guy doesn't change. He goes about his business. He's a mistake-free guy. He's got enough skill to bite you when you give him the opportunity. He plays hard. He plays heavy. He's difficult to play against. Like he's just not a fun guy to be against. Then you bring in Nemestikov. He's really smart. He's kind of a quiet guy. Nothing really going on there. You keep your decor, which you really liked. So where are the changes? Well, you got some changes up front. You got Iafallo. I mean, hey, this is a guy who just goes about and does his thing all the time. No problem. Right side of the puck. And then I think making Adam Lowry the captain, though, that's a huge one for me in terms of like changing the entire culture. You have a guy that, okay, well, physically you can't really stand up to him, of course, because he's just a monster. In terms of how he plays the game, well, you're not going to outwork him, and you're not going to, find a guy who's making a ton of mistakes in this game. He's giving you an honest game each and every night. And a guy who has presence. You talk about his dad being around the league for such a long time. He's been around Winnipeg long enough. He knows the city. He knows the team. He knows the management. He's a great conduit to encompass all of those things. And so for me, that's probably the biggest part of the culture change when it comes to making Adam Lowry the captain. He's a guy now that no one's looking twice when he says something. When he does say something, people are listening. His play on the ice dictates that he leads by example as well. So for me, that's probably the biggest piece there of the of the culture change.
Guys, is this true about Pete Loubardias? Is he a scout for the Flames now?
He is, yeah.
Excellent stuff. Good stuff. Sorry, Ken, I interrupted you. Finish that off.
No, that's totally fine.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye's on it, eh?
What's that?
Bye-bye was on it.
There we go.
You bet. Okay.
The mood around the team is different this year. There's no doubt. There's
no denying it. There's no denying it.
Sunnier demeanor. We've seen it. They've also changed the complexion, and what Sam's been saying. We've been talking about this. The Jets have completely changed their style of forward. I mean, they've added 5 different forwards. Now Kapari is out, but they're harder to play against. Some of the guys by being physical, like Niederreiter, like Nemestikov when he was in. Velarde by being a big body who's strong on his stick and is smart defensively, and Iafallo by being a guy who's buzzing around all the time and creating mayhem and also incredibly responsible defensively. So that's a big part of it also. I mean, that's a big step in the process. And Sam, I mean, you're so right. I mean, Adam is so inclusive in that it sort of has a feeling that everyone feels a part of it. I know that was their intention last year. And I think they maybe took a step towards that, but it's happening now. There's no doubt that we are seeing it every day. The team, every day you're around this team, they're enjoying being at the rink a little bit more. And as Rick pointed out today, Sean, you were standing there. the dynamic has changed from, you have some people with maybe 1 foot out the door. Now you have guys that are locking in instead of waiting for the chance to rush to another place. They're signing in long term. Exactly.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. Great stuff, guys. Sammy, you rocked it as you
appreciate
always
it, brother.
Ken,
thank you.
You did too. Ken, honestly, I know you're down on holidays, and it always means a ton when you hop in front of the convertible and make time for the audience
buddy,
here.
Sorry, and one quick one. The people had been asking. It was a 2-stroke victory for Dennis Bayak today, for those who were wondering. So
really,
yeah, good effort by Denny Bayak. Yeah, I did have 1 birdie in 5 pars, but I had a couple too many others on the course today. So.
Meaning drinks or
no drinks. No, when you're driving the Thunderbird, Sammy, 0 tolerance here in the old Arizona state here.
Nice.
Yep.
I have never seen a guy so confidently and calmly get out of bunkers the way I saw Denny get out of it that one time. He always ends up in the bunkers, and then he always puts it right beside the pin. Great bunker player. Hey, everybody. Again, Sammy, you did awesome, as you always do. It means a ton to us that you stop in here, and I know it means a ton to our audience, so thank you so much for that. Great job, Ken.
It's an honor.
And I want to say... Yeah, you bet. And I want to say, if you appreciate the conversations going on in this space, please appreciate our sponsors who keep the conversation going in this space. That would be Vittorio Rossi, Pristine Roofing and their wake-up call, Cambrian Credit Union, Sweet Lou Ferlin, the Johnson Group, the Keg, and TransCanada Brewing Company. And last but not least, oh boy, we had almost 500 people in the show here tonight live. Tons of comments. You guys were rocking it as you always do. Means a ton for us that you stop in and spend the time with us that you do. We ask you to do it again for the Jets next game, which I believe is on Thursday, Ken?
In Colorado against the Avalanche.
And then,
come on, people, join us on Sunday. Some people have been asking. It's not sold out yet. We've got a nice bit of sales done, but we'd love to see that room even more full for the big show. The big show on Sunday. Here we go. One last time. There you go. Get your tickets, folks. You can do it.
I get that you want to let Renny down, but you don't want to let Kenny down, do you? I mean, who says no to a face like that? Come on, people, buy up the tickets, and we can't wait to see you there. It's going to be a good one. But first, we will chat with you. Maurice says the show was an oil painting, guys. Great stuff. All right, we got to get out of here. Thanks, Sammy. Thanks, Ken. Thanks, chat room. Appreciate it.
Take care, boys.
Bye, everyone. See you after Thursday.